Hey, what's good, everyone? Local Ice Man here. Here we are. Gonna do my post-ice in analysis, post-game analysis, year in review, however you want to call it. Hitting the ice back in analysis. So, yeah, the ice has been in for about a month now, and been skated on quite a bit, as you can see there. Not looking too bad. Again, paint job definitely needs improvement. Only thing I will add is, like, I've already kind of said this, I guess. Down on the ice, you don't really see it. It doesn't affect the quality of ice. All I've heard is nothing but compliments about how great the ice is, and I think people are just happy to have the skating again. Nevertheless, but as far as making improvements for the paint job, I think where rooms improvements can be made, at least as far as we're concerned, is that I'm not ready to scrap that spray bar yet. I need to build a new frame. That new frame is going to help us a lot. So it's not falling apart. It's more, it fits something. It's just not big enough. It's just kind of a prototype, and I kind of kept with it. So I definitely need a new frame. And as far as the spray nozzles, because I don't want to ditch the spray bar entirely at this point yet. I think for our little rink here and our, as many we put the ice in, I guess we could use a hose. It's just as fine, I don't know. I don't want to scrap it just yet because I think it could work. And like what I want to do is replace the spray nozzles on them, because right now I believe I think I remember 8005, which means they're an 80-degree spray pattern with half a gallon per minute spray. Now the pump was rated for about 130 gallons a minute, so I think I definitely want to try different spray nozzles. Go into a 120-degree spray fan, I think, so you get a little more overlap. I don't think you could tell on the ice there that there wasn't much overlap, and when the nozzles got clogged just a little bit, there's just a lot of streaking going on. So I think increasing to a wider spray nozzle as well as a higher gallons per minute, maybe like a gallon or a gallon and a half. I think max 2 gallons, because there's like 8 nozzles on that thing, so 8 times 2, 16 gallons per minute. Even if you went to 3 or 4 or 5 gallons per minute, I think there'd be plenty of pressure. 15, 20 gallons per minute, and the pump is rated for 130, 120 gallons per minute. It's something I at least want to investigate. Maybe give me 2 different style of nozzles, like the 120 degree, and maybe get like a 1 gallon per minute and 2 gallons per minute spray nozzles, and kind of see if that throws better paint on the ice. Because I think that's really where our problem was, is with the spray nozzles, as well as I think I said our hose was 3/4 inch, but it may be even a 1/2 inch. I think that may be a limiting factor too. Not as much as the spray nozzles, but I think that I need to go to at least a 3/4 inch, 1 inch hose. That certainly would help. And that's pretty much about the paint. I think that if we did that, I think that would definitely help with the paint job, is replacing those spray nozzles. At least give it a try for next time. I don't think I'm ready to scrap that thing quite yet. As far as the lines go, hey, the lines are looking good. Look at that. They're straight, they're in. The circles are not necessarily straight, but they're round. Having that little outside face-off thing just makes it a little bit easier to see. I don't mind the logo's not there. People were asking about the logo. We're going to update the Blazers logo when they come back next year, or they already have updated it, so they didn't really want to put it back in. They were going to order another one, it just never happened. But I think the lines are looking good. As far as the meshes go, like the crease right there is mesh. And I'll back up here a little bit. Painting, because someone asked me about that, and that was a great question, because that's something I was contemplating myself, whether to start using paint versus paper. And I always wanted to use paint because that's where the big rinks are doing. The big boys and girls at the fancy rinks, they're painting their lines down. NHL, because that's what we strive to be, the best, right? But I've come to realization that we will never have the funding, the time, or the manpower, which all relates back to funding. We really have the money or the manpower, person power, 2020, to paint. You're going to need a lot more people to paint. The paint's going to take a lot longer time. It's like, I guess it's up in the air whether it's better than paper. I think it's maybe more crisper line, because you don't get the frost happening sometimes. And we didn't really get that so much this year, but sometimes you get some frosting that happens with the paper, so it's not as clear. But also when you have breaks in the paper and stuff, you have to start your paper again. Those kind of things will definitely be noticeable on a ice that's not skated on as much like us. Like, I'm sure our ice has been skated on more in a month than the NHL rink receives, like in a year. Maybe not this type of year, but usually our rink will, just the amount of time it's used versus the AHL rink. And The lines in those rinks are much clearer. They need to be because TV, advertisers, the logos, everything needs to be much clearer and sharper for people to see in the stands and in TV and stuff. So I think that's where paint definitely has its purpose. God, I'm missing the word right now. I'm so tired. It has its applications, its usefulness, but in our rink and stuff, our type of rink, community rinks and stuff, user rink, low budget rinks, paper is just fine. I don't think I'm going to switch to paint. I think after this year's experience, as well as your guys' input, that was the biggest factor, and I appreciate you guys' input that kind of lead me towards paper's fine. Like, why would I use paint when paper is just fine? So I'm not going to maybe one day I like to paint the creases over there, because just to make them a little bit sharper, because sometimes when the ice gets thin, the goalies kind of dig into the mesh there a little bit, the crease. So I really, maybe sometime, I do have the paint for the crease. I just never painted it because we always run out of time. My intentions are to paint the crease, but the mesh ones go in so fast. I just don't, again, time and money's is always an issue with us here. So but one thing about the mesh is you see that the dots right there, the 4 dots, I got 1, 2, I don't have to count those 4 dots, and you got other 4 dots out there. I ordered dots this year because we didn't have any dots, and they sent me mesh ones, not paper ones. I was like, oh yeah, all right, I tell you what, if you're gonna do mesh anything, like dots, those mesh dots, like creases, I could see painting it. And I guess, NHL rinks, or you guys have the manpower, paint your dots. That's fine. I'm not telling you to paint your dots. But for our type of rink, putting those dots down, to have to replace the dot and be able to churn it like this to get it straight in those little face-off, I don't know, the white little area. Sometimes the paper, it gets kind of creasy and folded, and you can't pull it back up to make it straight. Fabric crease dots by far is the way to go, no matter what rink you are. I mean, if you're on budget, total budget, like, okay, get your paper. Like, I can understand that. I'm not even sure how much these mesh dots cost versus paper dots, but you're gonna be able to reuse them. And I don't know. There's so much just to place those dots on the ice, and you can see how nice they are. You don't have any kind of folding or anything, or creases, or just to be able to place them on the ice is hands down the better way to go. I mean, you don't have to worry about that with paint, I guess. You don't have, because you're painting it down. But paper dots are sometimes a little pain in the butt to get placed properly and neatly. Yeah, once the ice is built up and skated on, you're not going to really notice it. But I think by far, even right now, you can notice that there's no creasing or squiggly lines in those face-off dots. I don't really know. I don't want to harp too much about that, because I don't know. I really like the mesh dots. All right, moving on to the water here, because it's basically putting the ice in. You got your paint, you got your lines, you got your water, right? Like, that's pretty much the main things you're doing. Water, this year, like, as much as I wanted to go with hot water towards the end, I couldn't really with the hose, because that last day of flooding, or the only day of flooding there with the spray, we couldn't use hot water. That hose would melt in the ice too quickly. So we had to use, I'm going to call it lukewarm water, for a lack of a better term. Like, I think it's okay to use cold water in your base layers, and definitely your layer above the paint, because you don't want that paint to smear. But I think ideally, like, as soon as you bring the machine out, you want to use hot water. I think the first couple floods I used cold, because I was just afraid to melt something. But after those first few floods, I went with hot water and stayed with hot water. I think hot water definitely is the way to go, top to bottom. Like, you could get away with cold water, but I think hot water, it doesn't melt faster. I think people say it melts faster, but I think it just bonds better. And it has less oxygen. That's what they say. Oh, hot water's got less oxygen, so it makes clearer lines, faster ice, because there's less minerals and da-da-da-da. Okay, but I think hot water, most importantly, binds to the layer below it. So you're going to get tons of layers, but each layer is kind of meshing together to make one solid layer. So and the hot water also helps melt the skate grooves and stuff. At least in my opinion, I think hot water, like the blade scrapes part of the skate grooves out, and the water fills it in, but the hot water kind of helps, melt the corners, and kind of this helps bond better. I think hot water bonds better than cold water, and you're good to go, I think, either way. But in general, I think hot water is the way to go. And also here, the ice could be a little more brittle, or not so much when I know if you get your ice too cold, it gets brittly, but the ice itself won't set up as good. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I like to see some research experiments on ice made when it's cold versus hot water. And, Since I don't have that research or numbers in front of me, I don't want to say one way or the other, hot's the way to go or cold's the way to go. But I think in general, hot is the way to go because it does contain less oxygen, less minerals for faster, more clear ice. Seems to make sense, so I'll go with it. But there's no reason why you can't use cold water in some of the buildup process, as well as when we put the ice in, usually put it in the worst time of year to put ice in, like in August. So when we threw our ice in, it was hot out there. It was really, really hot. So like the system, to throw all that heat outside where it's already hot is really hard. So this year I also didn't want to go right into hot water right away, at least with the lower layers, because of the issue of removing heat. If I threw 130-degree hot water out there, then that's a lot of heat I got to remove. I'm throwing out 80-degree water or 60-degree, it's not going to come 60, say 80-degree water, 65-degree water, a lot less heat to remove from that water. Again, in an ideal situation, if we got tons of money, a huge rink, huge refrigeration system, dump all the hot water you want, but we don't really live in that situation. So we try to make do with what we got, and sometimes you got to cut corners, but we don't want to cut corners enough to sacrifice ice quality. So cold water base layers, hot water on top, and that's where I'm going with it. Now, hose versus spray, like I know there's different opinions, as well as when to bring the machine on the ice, because that was another question I asked, and I have my own opinion. But how I see it is that after watching some videos too, other videos of other rinks doing it, you know what? They use the Zamboni or a modified Zamboni to spray their base layers in the paint. I don't know if those tires, and go ahead comment below if you guys use a machine to spray your paint. Does that machine have studded tires? See, that's one question I had, because that's how I kind of see it. I don't want my studded tires poking into the paint or the papers, so I want the ice build up enough so those studded tires don't poke in anything. So that being said, I've seen rinks out there driving their machines on the ice, spraying water, even with that new fast ice jet system, using that to spray your base layers. So there are people out there doing it. So I don't know. My rule of thumb is there should be enough ice out there so you don't poke into your paper and your lines. But hey, there's other rinks doing it, so I guess it's not a big deal. Maybe it's not that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's just my opinion. So go ahead and comment below on how your rinks do it, I guess. If you guys use machines, again, if your machines have studded tires while you're laying that ice, as well as hose versus spray on the initial base layers. You could do either or. Like, I always thought it was better to use a spray. And one thing I didn't really look very well into, I had some Star training I did. I should have looked through that book one more time before I did the ice install last time. I didn't really thumb through it like I usually do. But I think either way, if you spray or use a nozzle, like a hose nozzle versus a spray nozzle, like I guess a spray bar versus a hose nozzle, I think either way is going to make some good ice. Like if you're just getting the base layer down, right? I think spraying it puts a thinner layer so it freezes faster versus a hose flood. So I typically like to use the spray in the base layers, the paint, the seal layers, then bring the hose out to spray really, just to put more water on the ice, to flood the ice, just to help it get more water on the ice. But that's just my thoughts, my limited thoughts on my experience with hose versus spray, because we've been going kind of back and forth of which one's better or not. So, all right, I think that's about it. If there's anything else that I missed, I'll try to add it in somehow in an edit. But I think really the big lesson for me of this icing is the paint. I got to do a much better job on the paint. You can see it right here. I can try to hide it as much as I can, but I can't hide it. So it's a crappy paint job. It is what it is. At least I can see at least I know where I can make improvements. If I want to make those improvements, if it's still a crappy paint job, then we need to ditch it, go somewhere else, or hire a new Zamboni driver, because this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But like I said, the ice is here. Everyone's happy. People are skating on it. No one's said one word about the paint job. So, yeah, but it's you judge yourself. I think that's what everyone, I don't know how I want to say this, but for me, I'm the biggest critic of myself. I mean, not like I don't need someone to tell me what I did wrong. It certainly helps for a different perspective, but I usually know when I messed up. So, and it's not like a mistake or anything. It's just not a good paint job. And it's embarrassing to show this kind of stuff to people. That's, to be honest, like, that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, it's just more embarrassing than it is anything. I mean, I'm trying to show you guys how to do things, and again, sometimes I'll show you what not to do. Most of the time hopefully I'm showing you what to do, but there's going to be occasions where I show you what not to do, and we have to learn from our mistakes and other people's mistakes. But that being said, I definitely appreciate all the input and all the comments I'm getting from people, because you definitely help me to be a better driver, as well as other people out there who are looking, because this time of year is where I usually get, at least, my channel's only a couple years old, but I've noticed last fall, autumn is the proper way to say it, last autumn and this autumn, this is where I get my biggest subscriber bump, is when the season starts, because I think new drivers are being hired, new ice rink maintenance crew get hired, so people are looking for how to do things, or how to make good ice, and how to use the Zamboni. And all right, so without further ado, I definitely appreciate everyone's input, and I've been meaning to do this for a while. I might as well flash this up here right now, because this is a hat I'm going to give away, and it's not the hat I've been wearing. I'm not that kind of guy. Here, I'll show you my hat right here. This is my hat. So I got another hat to give away. Still got the barcode. I got the little cardboard thing in there. I was gonna give this thing away about a year ago at my 100 subscriber mark, then my 200 subscriber mark, and it's like, and I don't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be that guy giving away stuff just to bump up your viewership and subscriber count, because I thought about that, getting some free things to give away, and I think that's good and bad, pros and cons of that. Like, you're showing appreciation to your people who are giving input, but at the same time, you're going to attract people to your channel that just want free stuff. So what I want to do is just give away to someone who's added something to the channel. So if you added something to the channel in any way, comments, questions, basically that's pretty much about it. Comments or questions, you're going to be eligible to win the hat. So what I'm going to do, basically, I guess I got to come up with some rules here. For this video, you're going to have to like the video, subscribe to the channel, right? Those are the two main things. Definitely have to subscribe to the channel, okay? No free lunches here. Like the video. You're also going to have to, like I said, have to add it to the channel in some way, in either a comment or question. You've had to add to the conversation in some way, like a question about the machine. Tell me I'm doing something wrong, like, or not, you're dumb shit, you're doing something wrong, but this, improvements, like, just add it to the channel in some way. I think that's a broad enough statement for you guys to get what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this overly complicated. I just want to give this away to someone who's added to the channel, and I'm going to do a random giveaway. So again, you have to subscribe to the channel, you have to like this video, you've had to add to the channel in some way, not this video, but I guess, yeah, not in this video, but another video that had a comment in some way added into the channel. Then lastly, to enter for it, you have to comment in this video. In this video here, I want you to name the model ice resurfacer that your rink operates. Whatever it is, Olympia, Zamboni, Ergo, whatever those European companies are, whatever the name of your ice resurfacer is, go ahead and put it below, the name and the model number. And that's how I'm gonna make the entries. So I'm gonna pull the entries from this video. I'm just gonna do a random thing. There's some random thing you could use. You throw the link in there and I pull a random name out, and that's how I'm gonna do it. And I like to give it away to someone who I know who's added to the channel. And so I'm gonna check to see if you guys have. There's ways to check to make sure people have commented below. Let me put this thing down and things like that. So if I've seen your name, if I know your name as someone who has added to the channel, I know that name. Like, I don't want to throw names out right now, but there's some people who I know who've added to the channel, who've left multiple comments and stuff. And those are the people I'm trying to get this hat to. Like, I was wearing my hat the other day in a hardware store. He says, like, do you really drive the Zamboni? I'm like, yeah, I really drive the Zamboni. So that being said, I like to give it to a Zamboni driver, but I'll give it to any ice resurfacer, anyone who's added to the channel, to say thanks for making this channel what it is. My whole 350 subscribers. And I do realize my channel is it's a really niche market, really specific. So, like, I'm not in it to make money or to grow numbers and stuff like that. I'm in it to share information, and most importantly too, these videos are good for me to go back to look at and for your employees, because I'm training a guy right now. I'm saying, you gotta look at these videos. Like, I'm gonna explain this all to you, but go look at my videos too, because I explain it there too. So it's really good training tools, as well as just getting information out there. Again, there's a lack. You see the videos out there. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos. This is the Zamboni. This is what it does. This is kind of what it does. You know, nothing really like how to work on it. There's a few guys out there who had some stuff out there and how to work on the machines, but nothing really specific, nothing really dedicated. And that's kind of what I did. So like, this is it, you know, like it's been tough because, you know, we're a low budget rink, you know, and we got no money, and it's embarrassing sometimes to show you how we do things around here. I'll be honest, you know, like there's sometimes I don't really want to make a video because it's embarrassing. Like I wish I was at a more well-funded rink, but this is what it is. This is I've raised my family on this job, so I'm very happy. Like I don't think that's enough about that. Again, if you want the hat, you're gonna have to subscribe to the channel, like this video, add it to the channel in some way or form, as well as comment below in this video on what type of machine you drive, name and model number. And last thing, and very last thing about this giveaway, I'm gonna ship this thing for free, but if you happen to be somewhere, let's say for example in the Philippines, because I know someone out there in the Philippines who's left a comment, we may have to split the shipping halfway or something, or if it's too much, you know, like we'll figure something out. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Because I want to be a nice guy about this. I don't want to make someone to pay for something free, because I think that's kind of cheeseball. So, but anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Go and comment below about anything I've said today. You know, it doesn't have to be just about the giveaway. It's about how I put the ice in, paint job. I really truly appreciate your guys' input, and it kind of helps me for next year and next season, even the next day, making ice, because you guys do hold me to a higher standard. Knowing that I'm putting these videos out, I do hold myself to a higher standard right now. I think I've said enough. Go ahead and comment below and enter for the hat if you guys want the hat. I appreciate every guys have done, and I hope you guys enjoy the channel. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. As always, hope you learned something. And like the local Iceman says, stay cool.